Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Elixir Foundation series. So in this episode right here, we're going to be returning the HTML. So we're going to use everything pretty much, that we implemented in the previous episode, which is the status checking and updating the state of the renderer to show that, okay, it's completed. Now we're actually going to return the HTML. We're going to check to see, oh, is everything completed? Oh, good. Now we're going to return the HTML. And if it's not completed, what do we do? And if it is completed but not valid, how do we handle that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove some of the code we don't need anymore. Like, for example, these network requests, which we kind of implemented just to test out this whole process, when I'm explaining and you guys are learning. But for now, we're just going to implement one called HTML. And we're going to accept a argument called PID. And basically gen server. And we're going to make a call to our gen server, sending it the HTML message. So that pretty much wraps that function up. So what we want to do is now, we also want to kind of have a timeout. So we want to make sure that, everything happens within 20 seconds. You just want to make sure that, if our gen server gets stuck for whatever reason, that, it gets terminated and, this whole process gets terminated and our actual application, Elixir application, doesn't get stuck. So I'll explain a little bit more about timeouts and all this stuff a little bit later on. But for now, let's just go with this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to implement a handle call. So we are going to remove the two handle calls because we don't need them anymore. So we're going to implement a new one called handle call and HTML and from state do. So basically now we're going to check in here to see if our page has been completed. And if it has, we're going to return the HTML as we expected. So to do that, we're going to do cond do. So I used cond in the previous episode as well. It's just it's if, else, if, else, if. It's just a nicer way of writing that. So here I'm going to do state.completed and state.valid. And here, I'm going to do OK. And here now, we're going to use the actual, the Chrome remote protocol to actually retrieve the HTML. So you'll see all that over here in this, this part over here. So we're going to get the result. So if you're wondering how this all is structured, you can check out the documentation. I have the documentation. We talked about this in the previous episodes, so do watch that, where the documentation is and all that. In this episode, I think we've covered quite a lot, so I'm just going to proceed with actually retrieving the HTML data. Then it's going to be nested in result. I don't know why it's nested like that. This is something that is coming from Chrome DevTool. So you are free to go and comment on that in their, on Chrome DevTool. I think they have a GitHub or something. So yeah, and then we're going to get the value. And then we're going to do HTML. So basically now we'll be able to reference this HTML in our code down here. So here we're going to do rpc.runtime.evaluate state.con. And here we're going to do an expression. So this is a JavaScript expression. We're going to actually execute, we're going to send it that expression to execute. And basically that's what's going to return the Chrome Chrome is going to return us the HTML. So let me demo you this JavaScript expression and how it actually works. So all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect element, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in document element, and then outer HTML. So essentially, this gives us the HTML. So we already covered this in the previous episodes. So as you can see here, we're getting the HTML. So this is just a quick recap to as I type the expression, you guys don't get confused. So now we're going to do expression document element outer HTML. So as you can see, things are starting to come along now. So now what we can do is we can do a reply and HTML and state. We're just going to return the exact same state to the gen server itself. And then the next case is we're going to check if the state is completed, because it might be that the state is completed and valid, or it's just completed is not valid. So in this case, if the state is completed, what we're going to do is we're just going to return an empty string, because it's invalid, right? It's completed, but there's errors. So we don't want to return an HTML. We just want to return an empty string, and we can handle that later. Or we can actually even return something like invalid like this. But let's just return an empty string for now. I think that's okay, I guess, for now. And then true is kind of like if none of these cases are true, what do we want to do? So we want to reply incomplete and then state. So basically what this is going to do now is when we call on this function, it's going to check to make sure if the state is completed. If it's not completed, it's going to return this atom. And then we can use this atom to check on the other side where we're calling it. And what we're going to do is we're going to call it in here in this bodyful.render. So we're going to implement a public function called HTML that is going to instantiate our gen server, our rendering engine. And it's going to start the rendering process. And then it's basically, we're going to call HTML on it. And if it not, we'll kind of like loop and wait until the page rendering is completed. So we'll implement all that stuff in the next episode. For now, let's start off this gen server in our terminal, and then try and call this HTML function and see what happens. So I'm going to do IEX mix over here. So I'm going to do OK PID equals bodyful.render.engine.start link https://artintellectual.com. All right, so now we have the PID. What we can actually do now is do bodyful.render.engine.html, pass in the PID, and there we go. We got the entire HTML of the page. So that's really, really cool. Everything is working now the way it should. We just now need to package this in a little bit nicer, because we don't want to have to start the gen server. We want to just be able to call one command, just return me the HTML of this page, and bam, it's done for us. All the asynchronous stuff, handling, waiting, and all that stuff should be all done for us. We don't have to bother with that. So in the next episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a simple, nice API on how to use the gen server. We don't have to use the gen server directly, but what we're going to write a wrapper function that takes out the complexity of all of this that we have to do. We have to start the gen server, we have to call the HTML, and we have to wait and blah, 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 and all that stuff. So you don't have to do any of that. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to build a nice little API using the render module over here. So we're going to remove all of this code. And then basically we're going to create a function called HTML. So I would just want to mention that this whole process, you can even use it to generate screenshots of web pages and then save it and do all kinds of things with it. So it's really, really actually really cool, really, really powerful when it comes to working with websites and web pages and all that kind of stuff. Because you have access to the Chrome DevTool API. Like literally, it's this is the low-level access. So yeah, with that, I want to wrap up this episode. Thank you for becoming a member. If you're watching this video, you're definitely a member. And in the next episode, we're going to be covering building a nice API on top of what we've built over here. So yeah, with that, I'll wrap up this episode. I will see you guys and girls in the next episode. So I would like to also mention that if you have any questions about anything that we covered over here, feel free to check out the forum, the discussion forum. That's what it's there for. Ask questions, get help, or you can give feedback, and I'll be happy to check all that out. So yeah, see you all in the next one.